Mark. Guilherme Giovannoni from ESPN Brazil. You guys have been have some difficulties in passing the ball on the road. You guys have like 13 assists per game in this series, one play here. Is that a thing that you are guys looking forward to improve, to make the ball move a little bit better?
Yeah, we have to play better offensively out here to win the game tomorrow. They do a great job at home. They play with a lot of energy. They really pressure. They're up the floor, and we can expect them to bring that tomorrow. And so, we have to play with the requisite force in order to counter that if we want to give ourselves a chance to compete.
On the right side, second row. Mark over here, Robert O'Connell, Wall Street Journal. The stat that's been going around a lot this series about no NBA leading scorer winning the championship since 2000. If you take like a zoomed out view, does that tell you anything about the way the sport has evolved over the first part of this century? And what's it say about Shai being in a position potentially to buck that trend?
I don't know. I have a hard time with like the trends and analyzing those. I'm not the most equipped person to do that. We're dialed in on Game 6, to be honest with you. But yeah, Shai's incredible. He's a great teammate, great player. But we're focused on Game 6.
Nick in the back.
Mark, for years now, you guys have tried to take a really tactful approach to situations where the opposing team either doesn't have one of their top guys or, maybe one of those guys is limited. What do you draw on maybe from past experiences going into this game where Halliburton's status is kind of unclear?
Halliburton's a great player. One thing we know is you don't underestimate great players. So in the case that he plays, we're expecting his best punch. Indiana's a great team. We don't underestimate great teams. So in either case, whether he plays or not, we're expecting Indiana's best punch, especially at home. And so we'll be prepared for the best punch from both him and the team.
Back left.
Mark, you've talked about uncommon maturity all year with this team. In what ways has Kaysen showed you that uncommon maturity in this series leading up to Game 5?
Yeah, he's the man. I thought he did a good job in his minutes in the first couple games. I didn't think he shot the ball well, obviously, so that can be loud, but it had the desired effect in terms of playing him the way we did on transition defense and on perimeter point of attack. And despite the shooting, and he was in the starting lineup, we moved him out of the starting lineup, he just comes out with great confidence in Game 5 and steps into those shots and makes big plays, and was also incredibly impactful defensively, which is critical against this team. So we're going to need him again tomorrow. We're going to need everybody.
Standing in the back left.
Talking about with clutch points. Mark, I remember a couple of years ago in LA, you coined this phrase competitive empathy when you talk about a team, whether they're coming off a big win, big loss, and addressing kind of their mental state with the team. Do you need to have a conversation like that with your team, addressing where they might be mentally, where you guys are mentally, given that you're probably just one win away from a championship?
Hopefully we have that habit built. That's really the way we look at all these things is there's no new material right now, and so we're always trying to put ourselves in the opponent's shoes, understand what the opponent's going to bring to the game, prepare for our opponent's best punch in every situation. 0-0 mindset, despite what's going on in a series or last game or whatever. We're not introducing any new concepts right now. We're just leaning on the psychological habits we've tried to build over a long period of time.
Joel
Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. Hey, Mark. I don't know if you've had time to reflect on this recently. Maybe you have in the past few off seasons, but you look back at that 2022 draft, and I don't know, Chet and Jalen these days seems like one of the crazier hauls of this, past decade or so. Do you remember what you thought about that draft then, and sort of how do you feel about it now? What comes to mind about just getting those two guys in the same draft?
I'm not really in a reflective state right now, but they're great players. We take every draft. Sam does a great job identifying the guys we think can help. We start the process of developing those guys and see where it goes. And obviously it's gone great with those two guys. They've done a great job. And we're going to need their best tomorrow in Game 6.
Tim on the left.
Tim Reynolds, AP. Hi, Mark.
I wasn't there, obviously, but when Sam did his preseason meeting with your reporters, he talked for like an hour, and he never said the word championship. But it's clear what the expectation was for this team. How did you guys sort of create that concept of championship culture, championship belief, championship aspirations without putting that championship burden on that label on this team? Like it's never been championship or bust with you guys. How have you grown without hammering that word home over and over and over?
I think if you want to accomplish anything, you have to stack to it. If you want to accomplish any goal, it starts with what you can do today to step towards that goal. And we've tried to take a stacking mindset to everything we've done. You can't, even when the team was rebuilding, you can't fast forward that process. You have to be very present in the process and just stack days and stack possessions. We want to win the game tomorrow, but the most important thing we need to do to win the game tomorrow is prepare today and prepare tomorrow, and then play the first possession really well, and then the next possession, and then the next possession. And that's how we try to approach a game. That's how we try to approach playoff series. It's how we try to approach every single day, and let that win the day. If you do that, then you can put your head on the pillow at night and know that you gave it everything you had. The minute you start to drift mentally into the future, into the past, it impacts your ability to stack the next thing. And so we try to stay very disciplined to that.
Steve in the middle.
Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. When it comes to Shai and Jalen, the shots distribution, the scoring opportunities, how much of that is art and how much of that is science?
Most of the great players are art. They're unbelievably unique. They have unbelievable skill sets. That's every great player. Siakam's like that. Halliburton's like that. Those guys are like that. They're one of one. All the great players are. And so a lot of it, for us is just trying to help every player on our team maximize their individual style of play. Obviously, those two guys have very broad styles because of all the things they can do, but they deserve the credit for what they're able to do out there on the court. They're great players, but they do it inside the team, and so it doesn't suffocate our team. It doesn't take away from our other players' abilities to impact the game, and that's why the team's been successful.
Joe, last question in the back.
Mark, you guys were the second best defensive team in the league last year, and then obviously the best this year numbers-wise. So how far back does making defense your calling card go?
I think whatever our calling cards are, similar to the answer about our mindset, I like to think that they go back as far as, the beginning of this build, when Dort and Shai and Cameron Williams were a part of the team. Hopefully most of the stuff, we've evolved and we've definitely improved some things, but hopefully most of the big rocks are things that are very familiar. Even back then, that was our mindset back then is to plant the right seeds and to have the right themes and to have the right emphasis so that we weren't reaching a point of changing that. Because there's no day you become you don't know what day it's going to be that you become a good team. So we've tried to stay very consistent. It's served us well. And now that we're in high stakes environment, it's comforting because it's familiar. There's, like I said, there's no new material. We're not walking in today with a new riff. We're walking in and pounding away at the same stuff we've been pounding away at for 5 years.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Thank you, Matt. Michael, first question right here.
Hey, Shai.
What's up?
Michael Grange from Sportsnet Toronto. Couple of questions, really. Does it feel any different just being on the cusp of a chance to win a title, given, you've been kind of chasing this for a couple of years now? And two, do any of your experiences with, say, the national team, playing U.S. for bronze or, playing in Paris against France in an Olympic elimination game, do either of those things enter into your kind of experiences in terms of how you might face this situation in the next couple of games here?
Yeah, it doesn't feel much different, to be honest. We trying to stay in the moment, trying to focus on the things that actually matter. And I think like just us focusing on trying to be the best version of ourselves for Game 6 and having that at the top of my mind is all that really matters. And then, yeah, for sure, those type of games, the do or die games, you only get one chance. A lot of times they start a certain way, and in the France game, just for like recent memory, they started a certain way, and although we try to like climb back in it, they had control of the whole game because of that. So yeah, those experiences definitely helped me in my experiences going forward.
Tim on the left.
Tim Reynolds with the AP. Shai, how, without, I mean, it's only 3-2, obviously, but how rewarding has it been the way you guys have done this, the way you guys knew you would take some lumps for a couple of years and then got to almost 500, and then the last 2 years have been what they've been? To do it that way, to grow organically and to add bit by bit, just how rewarding has the process been now that you're on the cusp of winning this thing?
It's been fun. Now, the cusp of winning is not winning, and the way I see it, winning is all that matters. So it hasn't been fulfilling. We haven't done anything the way I see it, but I've built great friendships along the way. I've had a lot of fun playing basketball, and I think that's where you start. And the organization and the guys around me have done a really good job of building an environment that's fun to come to every day, and really just focus on work and getting better. And I think that's why we made jumps.
Tim, front right.
Shai, with the individual accomplishments you've had this season, MVP, leading the league in scoring, the team accomplishments, you're a win away from putting the finishing touches on a season that's like in the special category historically. How do you wrap your mind around that?
Focusing on Game 6, focusing on like just being the best version of myself for this basketball team, for whatever it takes, like for however many games there is, for however many possessions is needed, for however many moments. Like ultimately, I'm just trying to stay in the moment. I think that's what's gotten me here. That's what's helped me achieve the MVP award, achieve all the things that I've achieved. And I helped this team win basketball games. So trying to stick to that script and just focus on winning basketball games.
Steve towards the center.
Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. This league has a history of tandems, two stars on a team that take a team to its heights. I'm wondering, I know you're team players, all of you guys, but within that, how do you look at the dynamic that you and Jalen have developed, still are developing, to be able to become the two best players you each can be?
Yeah, it's been fun so far. I think both of us just trust each other, have the same mindset, winning mindset, want the best for each other above all. Me and him are also just like naturally really good friends. We talk all the time, on and off the court, are always together. So that helps with it for sure. And then we just use our experiences together to grow. Whether I see something, he sees something, whether we feel something in the moment, both being out there, like we just use everything that we go through together to grow on and off the court. And it's helped us so far.
Alvaro up front.
Alvaro Martin of Ritmo. You guys have won all sorts of ways. Higher possessions, you win. Lower possessions, you win. You screen in Game 4, you win. You shoot earlier in Game 5, you win. All these things are probably thought through by the coaching staff. To what extent are the players beginning to contribute to the reading and feedbacking to the coaching staff? We're seeing this. And who are the connectors when these big changes are made in game that make sure everybody's on the same page? Who are the middle linebackers that keep everybody on form?
So the coaches make the calls, obviously, and then honestly, the rest of us just like, the coaches do a really good job of making things simple out there. So like they give us a few things when we go out there to try to take care of every possession. And then we just go out there and play off of those few things and our feel for the game. And I think it's a luxury to have the guys on the team that we have with the natural basketball feel and understanding of the game. It makes that easier. So we're never like, what you just described, it's never that complicated for us. It's just like we go out there, we have concepts on both ends of the floor that we play through, and we try to make the best decision and an aggressive decision through those concepts. Your second question, I forgot what it was.
When the changes are made, who are the connectors that make sure that everybody's on court is on form?
Yeah, I think we all do our part. Everybody on the team. And the thing about this team is like we're very open and honest with each other. So if we don't understand something, if we don't know what's going on, it's easy to ask a question. It's easy to help. We're always talking to each other. So everyone's always informed. I think it's a whole group effort.
Last two, Tomer and Joe.
Hey, Shai, Tomer Zarley with Clutch Points right here. A couple of years ago, Mark talked about competitive empathy and understanding what your team is going through physically, mentally, and then also what your opponent's going through. And you talked about how that's been established over years, not just over a couple games here and there. How have you guys established that over the years, through some losing seasons as well, to where you understand where your opponent's at, where you guys are at, and how do you kind of apply that in this series where they have Halliburton kind of hobbled and you guys are a win away from a championship?
Yeah, Coach has done a really good job over the years of like highlighting and really putting emphasis on the things that matter and the things that you can control in a basketball game. And your mental approach is one of them, and he's always been big on those type of things. So I think honestly now it's like a trained muscle, but he does a really good job of like always thinking big picture and zooming out of the moment. So like even if we're in a losing season a couple years ago, and I don't approach the game the right way, he'd pull me aside after and explain to me that it's a muscle that I'm going to have to build. It's going to be something that I can't turn off and on, and I have to approach it a certain way. And I think like that's his biggest strength. Like as a coach, he understands the game, and then he understands how to connect with players and give them the right information to benefit themselves and then ultimately benefit this team. That's all, Coach. To answer your question, he's prepared us great in that way.
Joe, last one, back left.
Shai, I know you're focused on trying to win tomorrow instead of some of the more reflective stuff. When you guys were going through that historic regular season and 30-5 and 15-game winning streak and all that, after the games, you guys would say it's just part of a process. When you're going through that process, are you thinking about where you are now, like envisioning that, and is it what it looks like? Is this what it looked like to you then, or are you really focused on the day-to-day stuff that you were going through at the time?
Yeah, really focused on the day-to-day things. You don't never know what life is going to throw at you, and I've just learned that over time. So trying to and this is me personally, trying to picture what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like for me is it's kind of pointless. And I try to make it an emphasis not to do so. And obviously I'm human, so I naturally think about my dreams and my goals. But as much as I can and as well as I can, I try to focus on the day-to-day and focus on what's gotten me to my dreams and my goals. And that's where I hang my hat.
Thank you. Jalen will be in shortly. Steve in the middle here on third row.
Hi, Jalen. Steve Ashburner, NBA.com. I'm wondering offensively, for the responsibilities that Shai and you have on a nightly basis, when it comes to shots taken, scoring opportunities, how much is that a result of what your system steers you guys towards, and how much of that is maybe just organically for the type of players that you are and how you play?
You're saying how many shots I shoot a game, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, he's your leading scorer. Is he always likely to be your leading scorer? Are you likely to be the number 2 scorer? I mean, because of the way you guys play, or because of the players you are?
Honestly, it's a mixture of both of those. I think what helps is that we both want to win. So for me and him, it doesn't really matter who's leading scorer or who's not. I think it also helps pecking order wise. He's the MVP. So if he wants to shoot a lot of shots, I'm going to tell him good shot every time. So that's kind of how that works. But a lot of it, too, is a result of just our offense and how other guys play around us, and I think just how it's structured. But we don't really go into games and we're all right, I'm going to shoot 20 times and Dub, you're going to shoot 12. You know what I mean? It's kind of taking whatever the game gives us, and I think that's what makes us a good team.
Front right.
Joseph Pavone, Clutch Points. Jalen, I can imagine after your historic performance, kind of messages and phone calls you received, I'm wondering what's a name that maybe you hadn't heard from a long time, or someone that possibly reached out that stands out the most within the last 24 hours or so?
Outside of my parents, Nobody for real, like friends and family. Honestly, try not to answer my phone as much, even though that probably sounds like I'm a jerk, but just there's just a lot of highs and lows throughout the series, and you don't get as many texts if you don't play well, so I try and keep that in perspective too, but a lot of it can be really overwhelming if you give a lot of energy to it, so it makes me sound like a jerk, but I try and get back to them after business is done, but a lot of it just trying to like put my phone away and like spend time with the people that are like at the game and like here with me.
Nick in the back.
Dub, we've talked so much about your adaptability as a group, and a lot of that conversation's been sort of internally when you all change things up. There's some uncertainty potentially coming at you in Game 6 in terms of Halliburton's status, and you guys have had experience in these types of situations before. Can you maybe just explain the adaptability that you guys feel when other teams' circumstances change on you and you guys have to deal with that?
A big thing for us just during the season has been, and it's the NBA, so it's kind of funny. You never know who's actually going to play or not throughout the season. So we've done a really good job of focusing on us, and the Pacers are a very good team. Like I've been saying before, like you don't stumble into the finals, and you surely don't get into the finals with just one person. So we're going to get their best punch regardless of who plays and who doesn't. And, they're going to be fighting like their backs against the wall. So that's kind of like the mindset that we have going into it. And then whoever lines up is who lines up. But it's going to be no shortage of energy. And, they're going to play their hearts out, obviously. So that's kind of the mindset we have with it. And then whoever plays, plays.
Back row on the right.
Hey, Dub, here, Tins in China. First of all, great game last night. And at this time, the plot of this series looks familiar to that Denver one. So obviously, from that one, you guys won Game 5 and ultimately advanced in Game 7. 7 games. So what do we learn from that one in terms of long series and no secrets between those two teams, quote unquote, and try to close this one now tomorrow?
You try and take the lessons from each series and go from there. So a lot of it for this series was like for Game 1, for example, it's like, all right, we lose Game 1, pretty heartbreaking one. Obviously, a game winner in the finals for them is super cool, and for us, it sucks. But just kind of having a maturity of like understanding the highs and lows of a series. And the biggest thing for us is it's 1st to 4, not 1st to 3. So the same way that we felt Game 1, they probably felt last game, and they're going to come in focused for this one. So you try and take the lessons a little bit from Denver and understand what we could have did Game 6. Like we didn't come out ready to play, quite frankly, in Game 6, and we didn't do a good job of sustaining our energy through that series. So we're going to try and do a little better with that on this one. And, where the chips fall, they fall. But a lot of that is just trying to, like, grow through each experience.
Michael, here in the front.
Yeah. Michael Martin, Let's Talk Thunder. Dub, a couple days ago, you talked about growing up playing the one before you had your growth spurt. I just wanted to ask, what sort of point guard were you? Were you sort of the classic guy? What was sort of your game like before you sort of started playing on the wing?
I was like Andre Miller. That was somebody that I watched a little bit. Just like, it's going to sound like a shot at him, but it's not. But just like kind of like unathletic a little bit and like kind of below the rim kind of player. So I was like kind of like slow footed, but just understood like pace. Shot the ball really well. I shot a lot of threes. Kind of like pass first almost. So that was my game.
Last two over here and then in the center.
Jalen, you just became the player with the fewest minutes played to ever score a 40-point game in the NBA Finals since the minutes started being tracked in 1955. And alongside with Shai, you both had averaging 30 points in the last 3 games. You joined LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. When you hear your name in these conversations, how do you feel? How special is to be along those sides, those guys, in such a special something so early in your career?
Yeah, it's a blessing for sure. God's put me in a good space, man. It's like kind of like bittersweet because it happens in the finals. So a lot of it is like getting over it pretty quickly. So I've stopped thinking about it, but that night was really cool. It's something that I don't take for granted. Yeah, elite company for sure, but it's something that I've also put on the back burner. Like for me, that game no longer matters. and now we're trying to close out a series. But looking back on it, like when I'm done playing basketball, like just to be in those conversations, I think is really cool and really special. And having my family gets to be a part of it too. Like for them to be at the game was super cool.
Alvaro up front, last one.
Alvaro Martin Ritmo, GM said that this has been the finals where he's seen both teams play the hardest in a long time. Putting aside physicality, Indiana setting records of speed and distance. How does it feel in terms of covering the court and at the speed you're running? Do you feel that? Is that assessment correct in your experience?
Yeah, for sure. The game's going by super fast. I expected the physicality part. Like, everybody's playing to win a championship, so the physicality part's always going to be there. But I think the similarities in which each team plays with, you can, and watching it, like, you can feel how fast the game is. And I think for both teams to be young, I think everybody's kind of enjoying themselves. So that's definitely part of the game. I'm happy that it's like been that way too. Just from like it's living up to being in the finals, and it's fun to play physical and fast and do that. So that it does feel that way, the same way that everybody's watching and it does feel that way too.
Thank you, Jalen.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.